Boys, what's good? It's Herm. The 2023 NBA Draft Combine has wrapped up, so I wanted to give you my top 5 winners and top 5 losers from this year's NBA Draft Combine. We're winding down. We're getting into draft season. It's right around a month away now, the NBA Draft, so we're going to be getting into a lot of draft content, but this is kind of the start of it. The NBA Combine every year, it's a big thing. Less and less people are participating, which I will talk about later, but I want to give you still the top winners and losers from this year's NBA Combine. Before we get into it, think about subscribing if you're new to the channel. If you like the content, that's good. But let's get into it. Alright, so top 5 risers. We're going risers first. And first off, I wanted to go with point guard Amari Bailey out of UCLA. During his shooting drills, he was one of the most efficient players in shooting off the dribble. So he wasn't a catch and shoot guy, but shooting off the dribble, which to me is more impressive. That's lead guard stuff. If you can come down the floor, if you can shoot off the dribble, that's Jamal Murray type stuff. That's what I like to see. Connecting on 24 of 30 off the dribble threes, which is very, very impressive. When the scrimmages started, Amari took on more of a point guard role and did well, dishing out 8 assists in the first game and 6 assists in the second game. He also combined for 36 points in the 2 games, so really solid week for Amari Bailey. A lot of people already know him. He was one of the highest recruited prospects going into college for UCLA, played at Sierra Canyon with Bronny James, is also kind of famous because there were some rumors that Drake was dating his mother. So a lot of stuff with Amari Bailey. People already know him, but dude is a hooper. He met with the Wizards, Heat, Cavs, and Sixers this week and has workouts coming up following the combine as well. I think Amari Bailey is a guy that could go first round. He'd kind of slipped throughout the season because he hadn't performed at quite the level people had expected at UCLA, but as the season went along, he just got better and better, and he continued that at the combine, looking really good there as well and raising his stock. Second is shooting guard Brandin Podziemski out of Santa Clara. He played with last year's big combine riser Jalen Williams, who ended up as a lottery pick last year at Santa Clara. He was one of the toughest guards on day 1 of the scrimmages and did a variety of things offensively while dishing out 8 assists and posting 10 points. I believe he actually had a triple-double on one of the days there as well. Podziemski, really good. He's going to fly up the draft boards. I don't know if he'll end up going lottery like his former teammate did, but he is a guy who I think could sneak into the first round. His draft range is probably anywhere from the end of the first round to the early second round. Although he wouldn't personally name specific teams, Podziemski said he has met with 20 teams this week, which is an insane number. There's a ton of interest in this dude because he does so many different things. He's a pretty good defender, but a good passer for a shooting guard anyway. Really good passer for a shooting guard. Can score a little bit, can defend, do a lot of different things. I like the dude. I think he's a bucket. I think he is just kind of a gadget guy, but is a guy that I think will rise into the first round and did a great job at the combine this week. Third, small forward Ben Sheppard out of Belmont. He was one of the most impressive guards on the court at either scrimmage, especially during the second day. He led all players there with 25 points, including 3 of 5 from downtown, and added 3 assists and 2 steals in only 20 minutes. So a really effective 20 minutes for Ben Sheppard. He consistently makes the right offensive reads and limits his turnovers. He's aggressive at the rim and reportedly got to the line well, using his body to draw contact from defenders. He has great vision in transition and sent a bullet through traffic to Drew Timme that got a lot of scouts' attention. What a great pass from Sheppard to Drew Timme, showing that maybe he has some guard stuff in him, although he's viewed as a small forward. Although a landing spot in the first round might be somewhat of a stretch for Sheppard, he's a guard who teams should prioritize in the early to mid-second round. Good player, is just continuing to get better throughout the process and rise throughout the process because of his scoring ability, because of his ability to get a bucket when you need one. Power forward Olivier-Maxence Prosper. Marquette. He's got kind of a long name. I'm going to call him OMP. OMP did enough in the first day of scrimmages to shut it down and not play the second day. The wing out of Marquette tested well, showcasing a 40.5-inch vertical and shot 64% from 3 in the star drill. Great for a power forward. Love to see one that can stretch the floor like that. Once the ball was tipped, Prosper looked comfortable and let the game come to him. He beat players off the perimeter and really showed how impactful he can be as a two-way wing. There are a lot of teams that covet his size, length, and versatility, especially teams that are picking in the 20s. The way he played so confidently, stepping up into the jumper and the pick and pop and hitting the glass hard on both ends, OMP is now receiving first-round buzz, which he wasn't really before. He's finished with 21 points on 11 shot attempts and 7 rebounds in 22 minutes in his only day of scrimmaging. Good job from OMP rising into the first round because of his versatility as a wing, but can play the power forward, is going to be a first round pick more likely than not, I think now, and that's thanks to how he played at the combine. Everybody likes a big, kind of power forward, stretch four guy that can space the floor. He has a big wingspan, he's tall, he's just the kind of guy you want. He's a modern big man is what I would call OMP, and is going to be a first round pick now, it looks like. And finally, the last winner from the day, I'll call it, was Keyonte George, who's actually a guy who didn't technically participate in the NBA Combine. He wasn't a participant in 5-on-5 work, nor did he participate in shuffles, measurements, or drills, but he made the most of his time in the spotlight, albeit brief, at his pro day, which was earlier this week. George showed off impressive athleticism with some above-the-rim finishes, and showed off his range, both literally from a distance perspective and from a variety perspective of shot-making versatility. Dude is a bucket. He's been compared to Bradley Beal. Jaden Hardy is going to come in and be a pretty good scorer for a team right away. It feels a little bit like George had lost some steam at least of late in draft circles, especially after a freshman season at Baylor where he was more of a volume scorer, but the former 5-star top 10 talent looks the part of a lottery pick. He made a good impression on teams this week. I think Keyonte George kind of solidified himself as a late lottery pick. If I'm one of those teams late in the lottery, whether it's the Raptors or whoever it is, and I see this kind of score there, I'm going to take him. Like, teams didn't take Hardy last year, and if they redrafted right now, I'm very confident Jaden Hardy would be a lottery pick, because teams love scores. They love guys with upside to be stars, and guys that are volume scorers like this, bucket getters, often end up being star level guys, especially ones that are as athletic as someone like Keyonte George is. So even though he didn't technically participate in the combine, he had his pro day there, and he did a fantastic job and basically solidified himself as a lottery pick this year. But now let's get into the top 5 losers from this from the combine, which is a little more negative, but I promise I won't be too negative. First off, shooting guard Emoni Bates out of Eastern Michigan. I would call him a very slight loser, but I think you could actually call him a winner if you want. I think Emoni Bates is a guy who's right on the fence for me. He remains one of the most polarizing prospects in this year's NBA draft, and one look at mock drafts will tell you just that. Bates ranges from number 23 on SB Nation to 52 on ESPN to number 60 on Tankathon. In his first game on Wednesday, he shot 4 of 9 for 9 points, including 1 of 3 from deep, with 5 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a steal, and accumulated 4 fouls. So that is a decent game. In his second game on Thursday, he shot 3 of 5 for 12 points, including 2 of 3 from deep, with 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block in the victory. Now, let's look at what Jonathan Givony said of him this week. I think that Emoni did a good job this week trying to play a little bit of a different style from what we had seen from him at Eastern Michigan, which was not the most winning style. He's talking about, kind of the selfish, scoring-looking kind of play style he had, and honestly I like what Givony said, but I think we still saw some of that at the combine. He was kind of going viral for some crazy shots he was hitting, but the way he was playing was very reminiscent of someone like Michael Never Swing the Rock Porter Jr., who the possession dies when it hits his hands. It kind of feels the same thing with Emoni Bates, and Michael Porter Jr. is a great player. I'm not going to try to cap about that, but Emoni Bates is not going to pass the ball. He's a dude who's going to take kind of unwise shots at times, I would say. He's a tough shot hitter, but he's going to take a lot of tough shots too. And if you're a kind of a volume scorer type guy, take a lot of shots type guy, I just want to see more production than 9 and 12 points respectively. So for me, for that reason, he's a slight loser, just because I didn't see enough scoring from him to warrant what I want to see. And while they talk about this other stuff he's doing, he had 2 assists in the one game, and it doesn't even tell me what he had in the other game. So he was not a great passer for the weekend. for the week as a whole. I mean, he showed glimpses of really impressive scoring and ball handling, but I just need kind of more scoring if I want to be able to take a chance on a guy like this, who has off-the-court issues, who has kind of disappointing college performance issues. So I need to see a little more scoring from him, but there were glimpses of really impressive play as well. So I don't think he's some massive loser, but I think he's on the slight edge there. Scoot Henderson's chances of going number 2 are slipping. So the first point of intrigue in this year's NBA draft is what the Charlotte Hornets do with the second pick. We know who's going 1, it's Victor Wembanyama, but who's going to go second? To me, G League Ignite point guard Scoot Henderson is clearly the second best player in this class behind Victor, but the franchise may have concerns about how he fits with star guard LaMelo Ball, which I talked about right after the lottery. I did a mock draft right after the lottery. I took Scoot at 2. I think Scoot is the right pick. I don't think the fit is nearly as bad as people say, but according to Jonathan Gavoni, the sense in the gym at the Combine is that Alabama freshman wing Brandon Miller is likely to be Charlotte's second overall pick rather than Scoot Henderson. So they're thinking about taking the wing Brandon Miller instead of taking Scoot. I think Scoot has a higher upside than LaMelo, I'm going to be honest. So I think you just take the guy like Scoot. So for me, the loser here is the Hornets. It's not necessarily Scoot. He'll lose out on a little bit of money. I think number 2 will make a little more than the third pick, but he'll end up getting it later on. To me, the bigger loser here is the Hornets for honestly thinking about not taking Scoot Henderson at 2. I think you have to do it. Third loser is Portland's chances of picking at 3. It seems more and more likely like they're not going to do that. It's no secret that Damian Lillard wants the Portland Trail Blazers to build a competitive team right away. After the Blazers landed at number 3 in the lottery, all the buzz in Chicago was about Portland trading that pick for a young all-star caliber player. Bleacher Report's Chris Haynes reported that the Trailblazers will shop the pick. Portland, in an effort to continue building a contending roster around its star Damian Lillard, is expected to make the pick available for a trade, league sources tell Bleacher Report. A lot of one of the main guys I keep hearing linked to that is Mikal Bridges, but from everything I'm hearing, Mikal Bridges is not available. The Nets will not trade Mikal Bridges, so Portland's kind of desire to get him kind of seems futile. I know I've heard some rumors about Pascal Siakam from Toronto, and I think that's still live. I think that's probably the one that's most in play here, at least in my eyes. But I would rather just take the pick, especially if Scoot is there. You have a long-term future to build. You have Simons, you have Sharp. Scoot is a phenomenal player. So Portland, it seems like, will not pick at 3, so their chances at picking at 3 are slipping. Number 4, center Adem Bona out of UCLA. Always enjoy a good measurement debunking, but for a couple of years, ESPN/Brian Cardi have been touting that Adem Bona's wingspan is between 7'4" and 7'6", but it actually measured in at just about 7 feet. The tape measure doesn't lie. Oftentimes the Combine represents the first time teams can get accurate measurements on prospects, and every year a few players end up being smaller than anticipated, but this is kind of aggressively smaller. To me, a guy like Bona was potentially going to be a higher pick, whether that's late second round early second round. I don't think he's going to go first, but there's a chance he could get early second. But with his wingspan being much smaller than anticipated, I think it's going to hurt his stock pretty significantly. I just don't think teams are going to look at this favorably, and I think that's probably not the best look for him. And finally, the last loser for this Combine is the high-end Combine participation. This might be the final year Combine participation is lacking, since the new CBA is expected to require participation for all prospects, or else they won't be eligible to be drafted, which I love, by the way. But it sure sticks out as a big item this week. Nearly 40 players, a lot of which project as first-round picks, declined to participate this week. That included the likes of Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson, Leonard Miller, Jarris Walker, the Thompson twins, Grady Dick, and others, all of whom project as lottery talents. So kind of a bad look for the Combine that they're not getting participation, and guys that just aren't showing up because they're worried about hurting their draft stock. to me, it almost hurts your draft stock not to participate, just because I think it's a bad look. Like if you're a top 3 pick, I guess whatever. But if you're a guy like Jarris Walker or the Thompson twins, who there's very little film on, or like Grady Dick, you can make your chances of getting picked higher better. Like, why not go out there, work hard, participate? This is the same thing as load management. It almost feels like guys just don't have a passion. They're more worried about protecting their long-term interest than they are about, kind of showing their love for the game and competing. So we'll see if that gets better in the future. But to me, that was just a frustrating thing that we had to witness there. So that's probably going to be it for me. That's the 5 biggest winners, the 5 losers. I think Amari Bailey and Podziemski are the 2 biggest winners pretty easily. But guys like Ben Sheppard, a guy who I didn't even mention, Seth Lundy from Penn State, also a pretty big winner, is a guy who can space the floor. Emoni Bates continues to be one of the most interesting players in this entire process. We'll see where he ends up going. He could go first, he could go late second. So we'll see what ends up there. I think a team will probably take a flyer on him just because of the scoring upside, but I wanted to see more from him this week, and we just didn't see it. So let me know your thoughts on some winners and some losers from this pre-draft process, but we're still pretty early on. It'll continue to be fluid and change. But thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, think about subscribing. We're on the road to 8,000. If you enjoy the content, think about watching some more. But that's going to be it for me today. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.